So we are the last panel for today, but not the worstest. So please stay, come on, hear us, come here to us, and sit down in the audience, because I think we have a lot of nice things to share. My colleagues here said we have to make it short, and I said, no, we make the party now.
Fair enough.
So, starting by the first question, and to kick off this session, it's what's the common mistake that overseas buyers do when they go the first time looking at that? I should ask you, James, about that.
Yeah, okay. I think. Look, the really important thing is to make sure you get the right advice. And spend time really looking. I mean, I suppose some buyers might look at a glossy brochure and look at a product and think, great CGIs, looks amazing, and they'll spend a few hours and then they'll buy. I think it's very important to really kind of look at the other considerations rather than just the product itself. What area is it in? If it's a new development, who's building it? Other things in terms of the structure of the contract, all those sorts of things. I think the point I'm making is rather than just looking at the product and the apartment itself or the house or whatever it might be, drill into those things, rental market, all those other considerations are really important, because that will hold you in better stead. There is risks associated with it, but you can mitigate those by really getting into the detail.
Thank you. Tasos, you as the Vice President of Global Operations of the LeadingRE, that association of more than 550 companies around the world, so 170,000 brokers. Certainly you are confronted very often with conversations with the colleagues around the world. Can you tell me what is the main mistake that overseas buyers or cross-border buyers usually do at the first, or what they should not do?
Thank you, Paulo. I think this is a question that you could comfortably take as a valued LeadingRE member as well. Yeah, but to your point, I think to start with, it is of paramount importance always to seek help and guidance from a licensed and knowledgeable real estate company, a broker or an agency, as you call it here in Asia, because this will certainly mitigate the risk that you can take as a foreign buyer investing into another country. So definitely as a LeadingRE member company, you can see as well that we're the home of 550 top-tier member companies that geographically expands in more than 70 countries. And I think one of the biggest benefits that you can have by getting the help or support of a LeadingRE member is the knowledge they have locally, because what we do as a buy invitation network is partnering up with the top 20% performing company in each country we go. So that means that you should expect the service of your clients will be equally good, if not better, as you will offer to your own clients back home. And I think this is a story that we can tell by numbers as well. We are very much into referrals. Our DNA is referrals. We exchange about 20,000 to 30,000 introductions every year, with a remarkable conversion about 60 to 70%. So I think this number tells a lot.
I think we've all been in a position where, we've fallen in love with something. We see, as James has alluded to, we've seen a fantastic CGI or something, and we think we want a piece of that. And it's called a coup de cœur, and I think it's a great it's a great thing to have, and don't let go of that, but do take the step back. Make sure that you've got the full picture. Understand exactly what you're buying, what the reasons are behind your purchase, and get the full understanding as, okay, what are the intrinsic costs that go alongside this? Can I afford this? Where's my affordability? And especially if you're buying in an overseas market where your base is not necessarily there. So if you're an investor, how am I going to manage that investment? Who can support me with that when perhaps there's some issues with the property? Or I have a void period. How am I going to get the right advice to move that investment forward? So I do think that buyers are more savvy now, but you have to make sure that you've got a full picture when you're going into that investment.
Earlier, nobody talks about due diligence when he's a private buyer or a private investor. But today, due diligence is very important. What do you say about that, and what can the clients be expecting from you and from JLL in that part?
Yeah, look, I think from an agency perspective, anyway, you know, we at JLL anyway, I can speak for ourselves. We always do a huge amount of due diligence before we bring any new construction project to the market. That's really important. You know, we have teams that do that. Then there's another layer. Then there's solicitors that look at it. You know, they'll review the contracts on the purchase side and everything else. So I think, you know, due diligence from our perspective is really important. But even from, you know, buyer's point of view, there are things that you should be doing. I mean, mortgageability is really important. I mean, you know, one of the biggest things is actually just asking the question around where are these apartments? If it's an apartment block, where are they being sold? You know, are they being sold in the domestic market where they're being built as well as overseas? Because that is a really important thing these days. It didn't used to be, but lenders will look at that really, you know, in a lot of detail. If a project is sold all off plan, 100% overseas, then the chances are it's going to be very hard to get a mortgage. So things like that are important. And structure of the contract, how your money as a buyer is protected. Is it protected? You know, that's the first thing you should be asking. Because, you know, whilst you could have the best developer in the world, there is a risk profile. It's lower if they're very strong covenant, but still things can go wrong. So, you know, is your money protected is a really important one.
Can you give us a funny story about somebody where the due diligence was really an absolutely success and that surprised your client?
I don't know about a fun story when it's been successful, because when it's successful, then there are no real issues. But I think
business can be fun as well, so that's the reason why I asked the question.
There's many horror stories where it's gone the other way. You know, definitely, but that's not fun in any way. But you know, there are stories where, particularly where money hasn't been protected. But I think the most common one is what I was saying around, or what we've seen particularly in the last kind of 5 years, is definitely where a project is sold really well, but only in one market or off plan, and then it might be the best apartment building in the world, but if it's not always going to be cash, you know, you're not always going to be buying cash. So that's really common one we see where. It's not where you can't get mortgages, but it's the length of time it takes, and also you might have to go to lenders that are not, you know, not really kind of high street lenders, and then you've got to go to lenders with higher interest rates and things like that. So, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, Adam, just to ask you as well the same question.
Well, just to add to what James said, and this isn't a horror story, but again, this is where, you know, again, going back to my point about being prepared and understanding, sometimes there are things that will happen that are outside of the realms of your thought process. So I'll give a good story that both James and I were involved with. We were involved with a very high-level development in a global center with a developer with a fantastic track record. But anything that could have happened that went wrong did happen. I mean, from things that were structural to a change in government policy about funding outside of the country. And effectively, we had sold circa 60 or 70% of that development. We ended up having to go on a world tour to unwind all of those contracts because we couldn't go forward with it. So sometimes these things do happen. There are things that are outside of the realms of possibility. And as an investor, you just need to be aware that sometimes these things do happen.
And just to add to this, I mean, we have seen numerous times, especially with new developments, when it's a foreign direct investment from another country to another country, despite the fact that the due diligence was very well performed, documentation was in place. Clients fail sometimes to check their KYC with the banks and the money transfer. And then this has been one of the major reasons that sometimes procrastinates or even destroys a sale, because it was not enough information about how a client can transfer the funds or outbound the funds overseas, which is something that definitely a good lawyer or a good broker company can always at least guide the client to talk to their bankers and understand how the payments can be processed.
Well, this is exactly what we mean. I mean, when you get the advice, get the whole picture advice. So if you are in a country that has restrictions on currency outflow, make sure that you have an understanding of when you've got to make those payments and how you can make those payments. Ensure that you understand the legal process from A to Z, from pre-completion to post-completion to exit strategy. There's a whole plethora, and that's where good quality agents, good quality people within our industry add the value that perhaps sometimes isn't always discussed.
Tasos, a question to you, but I would like you as well to answer if you have an answer to that. I'm a European, okay? My target can be as well an Asian client. I don't have that knowledge about the Asian culture like eventually you, or vice versa. We are all looking for clients and buyers. Can you help us with the buying behavior of different clients like the Europeans, Americans, and Asians? Are there differences, or is it all more the same?
Well, I would say it could be different and could be in many different ways as well. Of course, when it comes to real estate investments, people have common denominators with regards to the reason why they invest, especially when it comes to housing needs or investment fee or investment needs. It's all about ROI, and if the property I'm buying meets the requirements and needs of my family for the next 5 to 10 years. But definitely, when it comes to the Asian markets, I'm not Asian, apparently. You can't tell from my appearance.
But you worked a lot.
I was lucky enough to spend some time of my career in this part of the world, and I've learned a lot. I mean, sentimental value, the purpose of buying, cash buying versus leverage. It's something, for instance, a European will only approach a real estate investment from the numerical point of view. An Asian may not, may sell a real estate or not sell a real estate because it has a sentimental value to them. Feng Shui, architecture, these are different elements that you have to assess, understand the culture as well when you have to deal with Asian buyers.
I made the question to you because you lead the destinations program of LeadingRE. So you talk with a lot of people around the world and with developers. And I think the biggest mistake that a developer can make is building something that is not built for the client that he's looking for. And that was the reason of the question. James, if you can add something to that, or Adam, please.
Yeah, no, I mean, Tasos kind of covered it all pretty well, really. But I think there's lots of nuances in different markets. I would say one that's perhaps a bit more different out here versus maybe in Europe is, a lot of buyers out here are very used to buying off plan. Versus, particularly where Adam and I come from in the UK, that's primarily, buying for completed or near completed. But yeah, I think you covered it all very well.
I mean, I've been in Asia now for almost 7 years. And
it's a difficult question. That's the reason why I made it.
It is a difficult question, but actually what I have picked up along the way and having worked across multiple different markets, there are so many nuances when you're selling culturally in these different centers. If you go to the Middle East, the more bathrooms, the better. If you are in Asia, Feng Shui is a very important thing a big part of the communities. So understanding that, and then even to outlooks, if you have a graveyard near your development, you're pretty much not going to sell it in big parts of Asia. And as Tasos said,
in some places of Europe, it can be a quiet place.
Well, exactly. It's not so frowned upon in Europe. So these nuances are important to understand when you're looking at what you're building and who your target markets are. It's a very important part of the question. And again, even further than that, we can take it to culturally, how do people buy things? If we go to Thailand or to Cambodia or Vietnam, they're more likely to buy in cash and they don't do leverage. And actually, if you go and talk to them about that, they become almost insulted. So again, it's understanding who you're talking to, how you're talking to them, and what you're doing.
In my company, I'm the numbers sailor, and my wife is the emotional sailor. So if I put this as a line, I think we have the emotional client, and then we have the number client. But I think when we're talking about the third home, which we have as well here, a colleague here, then we are talking more about numbers and ROI, due diligences, and all the rest, if I can resume that to that point. So, Adam, you must be the man for the strategy and the long-term value. What would you advise a high net worth investor at the moment should be the strategy for long-term value to invest here, for example, where you are?
Well, whether you're high net worth or whether you're a first-time investor into property, my strategy as a property investor, and I bought property, I own property, it's a big part of my portfolio for investment, because I truly believe in it, is I believe in the long term. I think bricks and mortar make a lot of sense, as long as you're not looking at it in the sense of trying to speculate all the time. The reality is that we have a undersupply of property globally. We have a growing population. We have infrastructure in these major cities that mean that actually there's always going to be a demand. However, if you're looking to turn a quick profit, you're better to be maybe in the stocks and equities markets. You're better to be in a place where it's more agile, quicker to respond. If you're looking at property, look at it as a pension pot. Look at it as an opportunity to grow your long-term wealth and to future-proof for your families and for your loved ones.
Thank you. James, how do you help by Johnson & LaSalle people or investors building strong relationships? For example, what is around the property buying process that you serve the clients with?
I think look, we try and help from all ends of the spectrum, really. But I think sitting down and really understanding what someone is looking for first, rather than just trying to shove a particular opportunity down, towards them. But I think that we get involved with the whole end-to-end process, and we sit down and really try and understand their needs. What do they want? Why are they buying? And then we try and tailor that with where they want to be. And are they buying for pure investment? Are they buying for long term for their kids? All of those sort of things.
So it's a one-stop shop. One-stop shop.
One-stop shop. That's what we try to be. One-stop shop. And I think being a global brand with with a far reach really helps into lots of different markets. So and also being part of the LeadingRE network, we can pick up the phone anywhere in the world, anytime, and try and match those needs with the clients.
You have to call me more often in the future, please.
And I think, James, the end buyer, the investor today, I mean, we are all bombarded with tons of information every day. So simplifying the process and getting the people to talk to a single point of contact, it always makes things easier and also builds more credibility with regards to how the investor will process the purchase. So I think the relationship between the client and the broker is of paramount importance.
Yeah.
Adam, how important is today the technology in cross-border buying?
Massively. I'm a massive believer in technology, in prop tech. I don't think it replaces the human element of purchasing. I think there is a symbiosis between technology and the human interaction that we need in terms of buying property and looking at property and how we do it. But we have to understand that our buyers now are much more tech savvy. And and it's an evolution of the market. Gone are the days where you can just offer one opportunity to somebody and force that down their throats, so to speak. People now have access to everything at a click of a button, and they can understand everything that's happening, and you have to take them in that sense. So embracing technology is a great way of being able to tap into the demand now. Looking at new ways of approaching how do we sell real estate, how do we do what we do in order to engage our customers and our clients. And so for me, it's the future. It's very much the future of what we do in real estate and how buyers are going to consume real estate in the future.
Now, the question as well to you, James, or starting by you, James, what is the most gaining market at the moment in Southeast Asia? Where have the people to be at the moment, this moment?
At the moment, across Southeast Asia, I think there's
here at the fair, yes, but
yeah, no, definitely. But look, I think we're seeing lots of opportunity across Southeast Asia. Undervalued in many respects in different markets. So I think Thailand, Malaysia, definitely, Vietnam. I think there's plenty of opportunity, and it's still fairly undervalued as well.
Thank you. And you, Adam, the same opinion, or have you a secret info for us, which is normally off-market info?
Well, no, I mean, look, I don't want to singly pinpoint one country within Southeast Asia or across the APAC region. I'm based in Hong Kong, and I've seen the Hong Kong market go through massive booms, and now it's in a little bit of a more of a lull in that sense there. But again, there's a huge demand, and even today I just saw an article about Morgan Stanley acquiring a huge swathe of residential in Hong Kong because they feel there's a good value. So that market might well be coming back. But then we have emerging markets like Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Thailand, where residential is opening up, and there's now more opportunity as a foreign investor to invest into those markets and also move away from just leases into freeholds. So there's lots of opportunity, but again, it really depends on what your model is and what you're looking for. Are you more speculative, or are you looking for a more established market? I mean, even as we sit here in Singapore, when I look at the domestic market here in Singapore, it's at an all-time high. I mean, every project that I hear going to market is selling out within the space of a week. So it really depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for something that's already established, or are you more willing to roll the dice?
Thank you. Tasos, now leaving a little bit Asia in that point of view, what is the market that you see the next 5 to 10 years growing on demand?
Well, I think unfortunately nobody can predict that long anymore with what's going to happen.
I'm asking for your crystal ball.
The dynamics and geopolitical changes, everything influences our industry severely. And we have seen this in practice for the past 24 months. However, I would say following the recent drop of the interest rate from the European Central Bank, this would definitely drive investments back into real estate. We had a discussion on the previous panel, so I'm very confident that the European markets will be on the uptrend again, so we can see return on investment yields kept on logical levels. And again, we all need to understand, even in the US, that they had a little bit of slow start for Q1 and Q2 in 2025. We all need to understand that we have been going on for a cycle of 5 to 7 years with frenzy growth rates that brought the prices tremendously high, returns on investment on unprecedented levels that real estate has not experienced for years. So I think what is important to understand is that how the dynamics are changing in this market. I see a lot of potential in many different markets, but it also depends on the perspective of the investor. Is it for relocating? Is it for immigration by investment? So there is so many different factors influencing these dynamics, Paulo. And I'm not avoiding your question. So to be fair and square, if I would to be invested at the moment and expect my capital to appreciate in the next years, it will either be US or in one of the most established. I wouldn't go to one of the emerging markets in the APAC region for mostly security reasons, but markets, if you have enough funds like Singapore, Hong Kong, definitely, or even Thailand, which is thriving for many years now, definitely is a good place to invest.
I think it's still the diversification that is important to have on the lens and to look at, being on secure markets, maintaining the real estate secured in the values, and on the other side, eventually gambling a little bit in some markets that we see they have potential to grow, and they are changing their political system or rules or jurisdiction. Please.
I think there's some fundamentals that I think, if you follow those fundamentals, you're not going to go too far wrong. I mean, if you are looking at emerging markets, look at what's underpinning those emerging markets. Is it coming internally from the government? Are they building infrastructure? Are they building opportunity? Are they affording foreign investment the opportunity to come in and support the growth of their country and their GDP? So I think fundamentals are really important when you're looking at it from a micro and a macro level, and if you're taking that position when you're looking at emerging markets, I think you're in a better place. Otherwise, you go to a more secure and established market, and those fundamentals are already there, underpinned by historic data, by historic growth, understandings of the rental markets, and supply and demand issues. And I think those are the key pieces that will help you as an investor into property to understand which is the route you want to take.
Now, the last question for you three. Imagine we have here in the audience somebody who wants to start buying tomorrow a property cross-border or anywhere. What should he do or start doing now? As well, talking with you immediately after the presentation, but on the same time, what should he do? What should be the steps that he should start immediately?
Well, I think really look at why you're buying and what your horizons are. And then really undertake some research, look at all the different markets, the opportunities ahead, speak to trusted advisors, come to the Global Expo, take a good look around all the different booths, make sure you get around everywhere before you leave here.
Adam. Again, such a question, I know, that's tricky.
Yeah, it's a very question. I mean, look, I think seek trusted advice. So get credible advice. A global expo like this does give you a plethora of good opportunities with good quality brands, with best in class, who understand their markets, who are able to give you a well-rounded. I think it's the theme of my answers tonight has been make sure that you're getting a 360 view of this. So good partners, take your time, and talk through the issues and talk through look at the negatives as well as the positives, and make sure that you're happy if those negatives were to come to fruition.
Yeah, no, sorry, one more thing. I think, once you've done all of that, but before you actually commit, is really look at your cash flow position, if you're getting a mortgage, and just be more conservative as well. Don't kind of really push the boundaries. Leave a bit of room. If you're buying something off plan, it might be that interest rates go up and that affects what you could borrow, or your job situation changes. All those things are really important. So just, be a bit more conservative.
Hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Tasos, I'm so sorry.
Well, I think I would say that define your purpose. Why are you buying? Is it investment? Is it for relocate? Is it for housing needs, as I said before? Also, check the budget beyond just the sticker price. People need to check very well what is the cost of maintaining a property. Will that leave me enough room of liquidity to pay my mortgage, to pay my installment, and also maintain my property? So this is something that most investors usually forget to assess. And also emotional readiness. I would say investing abroad, you have to be prepared that maybe things will go slower as it works back home. Bureaucracy, all this kind of stuff, there are factors that you have to take into account when investing overseas. So again, back to square one, hiring a professional broker company to assist you, it's really, really important. Last but not least, Paulo, you have to think of your exit strategy. We have seen many cases that investors bought properties in countries that they didn't good at due diligence, and probably you couldn't even sell to a non-local, or you could not repatriate funds for a period of years until you go out of the country. So all these are really, really important things you have to check before investing overseas.
Thank you three very much. I would like to give the last word for today. I think we have to thank the organization of this event and all the audience that is here. If you want to have questions about the areas, go to the booth, go to the exhibitors. They are all professionals, very, very professionals. Speak with them, touch them, smell them, okay? Either what you want, but really suck out the informations that they have for you, okay? Because they come from all around the world, from the globals. It's a really global expert expo. And I think 2026 this will continue. I hope to be here again to help you out, guys, in this. Thank you very much.